All right.
And we're on.
We are live. Tuesday night
Yes, we
edition.
are.
This should
Yep.
be the podcast. Episode 14. All right. Not too bad. We're getting up there in numbers.
A little baker's dozen. No, wait, that's 13.
Yeah. An ambitious baker's dozen. They like a lot of eggs.
A baker who can't count. There we go.
Exactly. Let's get started.
Is that big?
Sorry, I cut you off. Is that Baker? What? I don't know.
Is he wearing a mask? Is he taking the protocols?
I don't know.
Because otherwise he
not.
doesn't deserve to run his business.
It depends on what state he's in. If he's in New York, he better be wearing a mask, and he better be requiring vaccination proof to work in there. So, are you familiar with the movie Say Anything at all? Like,
Yeah.
relatively. Okay, good. Just making sure.
No, I get it.
I love that movie. That movie's like
I haven't watched it in a decade and change, but yeah.
Not that you wouldn't get the poster, but it's got nothing to do with anything. But this is one of my Halloween goals. I've just never gone through the lengths of finding a Clash T-shirt or an old school boombox from the '80s. But one of these years, I'm going to do it. Just
Yeah, I can see that.
It's a good movie. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. So this is a story where Dan meets Dave. So I'm excited. Or Dave meets Dan. It's good. I don't know if you actually. All right, I scourged the internet for that stupid picture. Wasn't that hard? Scoured, not scourge. Scoured. That's probably not right either. Is that the right
No,
word?
Scoured is right.
Scour is correct. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It still sounded funny.
All right.
Hey, man. So, good week. How are things going?
Better than last week. Yeah.
Good.
I went to South Carolina for the weekend, and it was 100 degrees.
Ugh.
And now it's nice. So I was noticing today how it's hilarious how a temperature drop of 20 degrees and then having like one good day of work completely like changed my whole demeanor.
Oh yeah.
It's amazing how those things affect me. Like I would just like walking around like a normal person as opposed to like last week where I was just like, I hate everything. So
yeah, could you imagine living in like Florida in the summertime? I couldn't do it. That's just unbelievable.
you'd have to be one of those people that for whatever reason the heat doesn't affect you.
Yeah.
You know how like I couldn't live like up north, like in Boston or something. Like
Yeah, that's its own set
but
of
for
things,
some people
man.
they're like, yeah, cold, it doesn't bother me. So like I don't know. Some people are just wired with different genetics to tolerate extremes of temperatures. And I
Yep.
seem to be kind of a wuss for both. So
I can take the
maybe
heat
I
over
should
the
just live
cold.
on like a Greek island for the rest of my life.
Yeah, well, the Mid Atlantic's pretty temperate in general. Still, you get a little bit of both.
We
It's
get
more
two good
hot.
two good months out of the year, April and October.
No, more than that. You think? Only? Well, then you're in Durham, though. That's not the same. I don't know if it's that. It's not that much different.
I'm at the point where I'm just over. I can tolerate extremes of temperature. It's humidity that bothers me.
Yeah, the humidity sucks. I agree. Yeah, but
It makes
rather
my
have-
body feel all weird. It makes me feel like my joints don't work. Like I don't know. It's just something about it that affects my brain.
Yeah, it's not for me. It's just like every pore in my body oozes sweat. So that's what I don't like.
And then there's other people that they just walk around and it's no big deal. They're like, oh, it feels
Yeah.
nice. I'm like, what are you, a lizard? I don't know.
Hey, so did you is it a confirmed sighting of that Parks and Rec actress? I forget her name.
No, I don't think it was
No.
her.
Okay, it was close. This is the bot. This is the.
It was just a lady that from a distant phone picture.
Well, I was just like, I don't know about that picture, man. I wasn't sure, but I wasn't there. Just it was a faraway shot. It could have been.
Yeah,
It could
I
have
don't
been
know.
her.
I don't know if she'd end up in downtown Savannah in the middle of summer.
It was like I didn't see her cousin Genuine around, so I didn't think that was. I didn't think it was her.
Yeah.
Ooh, look, we got a comment right off the bat. Okay, let's arm wrestle. All
I don't know
right.
what that means.
Me neither. But we're not going to
Okay.
arm wrestle because we can't. We could digitally arm wrestle with
You
this
probably
person.
win.
Digitally, or
Well, no, like in real life, were that to happen.
like you and me arm wrestle,
Yeah.
or me and this complete stranger? Because I'm not that strong. You'd be
No,
surprised.
I don't know anything about this complete stranger.
Okay, I'll take. We'll see what happens next time we get together. We'll arm wrestle. We'll record it.
Yeah.
It'll be the opening. We'll do a live show.
Sally's going to get out her phone
Sequence.
like, this is going to be good.
Stupidity. All right. So what do you want to talk about, Dan? I'm gonna let you kick it off today.
Well, I've just been thinking, I thought about it. The Photoshop we should have used for today was like a picture of Jeff Goldblum from Jurassic Park where he's like, man, I hate being right all the time.
We can still use that any other time. You got an idea. You got to throw it my way for Photoshops.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. Like, I've just been thinking about how like all of the things that a lot of people said, people like you and me, like last year about like the way the government handles the pandemic. And it's like, well, they're not going to walk back all this stuff. They're just going to keep doing it. And they're like, no, this is a special case. And it's like, they pump all this money into the economy. It's going to make the inflation go crazy. And there's going to be all kinds of shortages and problems. And we're like, no, it's just, a special case. And then like everything that people predicted was going to happen is happening.
Hey, look, if you pay people not to work and then make it a law that you can't get evicted from rent, it's not like when that ends, there's going to be mass panic and everyone's going to freak out. That's never going to happen. That won't happen.
Yeah.
Oh wait, that happened this week too. Crap.
Yeah. There's a lot of layers to all this stuff, and it's really, it's been really kind of annoying me. Like it doesn't like directly affect me that much because we're blessed that our jobs are continuing, and we're of at least enough means that we're not like having to scrounge around for stuff. But like taking an example, like this might be like a first world problem, but like I stay in a lot of hotels. So, and I have been since like beginning of 2019. I go on these road gigs, and I'm usually the kind of person that's like, I like to think that I'm doing well enough off that I don't have to stay at the absolute cheapest place. So that kind of leaves out like a roadway inn or like that kind of stuff. Yeah. So it's usually kind of like maybe like a Comfort Suites or a Best Western or like a Microtel or something like that. Like, and so seeing the level of quality that has changed at that mid-level, like I would say lower mid-level price point is pretty staggering.
Like, what do you mean?
Well, like, and it's in some cases you can compare like literally the same hotels because we go back and play the same venues a couple times a year, and watching like, okay, so the labor, so like it's just everything's dirtier. So like it's one thing like in 2020 where like nobody was traveling, so like fair enough, right? Like where we go to one place and in 2019 the whole parking lot was full at 1 a.m. And then like in 2020, it's like there's like 5 or 6 cars. You're like, all right, well, nobody's moving around except for like essential people or like weirdos like us who continue to play music.
Right.
So you're like, all right, well, fair enough. There's like a skeleton crew. But then like now it's like everybody's traveling around. Like you go on Interstate 95 and there's a million freaking cars. So like people are going places, people are doing things. But you go to the hotels and they still have the same skeleton crew. And so like even places that previously were like, oh, this place is kind of nice. It's clean. It's nothing too fancy. They got a good breakfast. The staff was nice. There was always hot coffee in the lobby. And you go to those same places and there's like maybe one person who's having to do 3 jobs. You go in there, you go ting, ting, ting. And then it's like a few minutes and the person comes in there. They got a plunger in their hand. You're like, oh, sorry for the wait. So it's like, and then you go in the elevator, there's trash everywhere because they don't have enough people to go around and sweep all the elevators. Yeah. And, and so that's just one example of like, a direct like apples to apples comparison of like where we are at, and everything's gone up by about 15% price wise. Mm-hmm. So you're getting way less for your money. Like I haven't seen bacon on a breakfast buffet in over a year. Whereas
That's
before it was pretty commonplace. It'd be like, like if I was going to choose between us like two $70 hotels of equal quality, like the one that has the free breakfast, I'm like, all right, well that's where I'm going. Right. But that's no longer, you're getting like frozen, like Jimmy Dean sausages that they threw in a vat of something. It's like, that's a stupid complaint about life. Right. But it just goes to show that like, every place, nobody can find the right people. And so like, I mean, how many times have you been to a restaurant in the past, like few weeks and it's super slow? Like, and it's not because the people are not good employees. I've been a server. I know what that's like, but it's just they don't have
Mhm.
enough people. Now regular people want to go out to eat. So it's not a lack of demand. It's not like business is slow, we can't afford to hire people. It's like like the last like 5 restaurants I've gone to, like I stopped like on the road when I was like, all right, here's a Armando's Mexican cantina. All right, let's go now. Get some like get a couple burritos. It'll be quick. I'll be in and out of 40 minutes. And it was like I go in there and like every single person in this whole, now granted it was a little town, it was a Sunday afternoon, so I probably should have guessed, but like there was a million people there, but they didn't have anybody working. And so like everything took forever. Now that's a small complaint, but literally every fast food joint you walk into now hiring. And it's not just we're hiring cashiers, janitors, we're hiring management, middle management, supervisors and stuff like that. Like it's weird. It's like some sort of pre-apocalyptic, I don't know what it is. It kind of gives me this weird sort of feeling like maybe this is the beginning of an even worse downward spiral.
Right here. Yeah, that's interesting. So like we have gosh, that's one of my ticks. I say that's interesting. Let me get it. I gotta stop saying that's interesting to preface every
Lots
point.
of things are interesting.
Yes, it's true. It's because what you say. You stop saying interesting things, Dan. You're freaking me out.
So I was watching the Kardashians the other day, and one thing
that's infuriating. We
that's infuriating, Dan.
That's infuriating. Let's have this conversation. That's a better jumping off point.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so so after music practice, we usually go out and grab wings, beer, pizza, something like that. So like if we have a good sized crew, there's not a lot of places in Moorhead that are accommodate like 8 or 9 people at like 9 or 10 at night. So a lot of times we go to like Buffalo Wild Wings. It's like wide open, huge place, whatever. And like during most of the COVID stuff, they were halfway open, never open, couldn't get staff. And then once the mandates were lifted and everybody, you were able to go back to work, and the masks were lifted, and the curfews and stuff were lifted. We're like, all right, great, this is cool. We should have no trouble getting in there. And they finally, it seemed like this month, we started to open up to like their normal hours. They were still closing at like 9 or whatever. So last time we were there, probably like a week or two ago, we were there till like 10:30, 11. Not when they closed. It was like, great, we're open. So we had a bigger group this week. Went over there. I was like, hey, they're like, hey, can I help you to go place an order? I was like, nah, I got a group of 8. We're gonna sit down. He's like, nah, man, we're closing. I'm sorry. I was like, no, you guys were open till like 11 last week. They're like, nope, severely understaffed. Can't, not today. Sorry. So it's like a day-to-day basis with some businesses. They can't even keep a freaking normal schedule, which is frustrating for a customer, but it must be infuriating for the other employees that want to work there still. I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah,
this is stupid complaints, first world problems, man. But it's a continual problem. And you're right though. It's a good point. It was a problem before because of all the lockdowns, all the shutdowns, all the curfews, all the restrictions, and then all the unemployment, all the mandates for the rent moratoriums and all that stuff. So now that's kind of, we're in that in between era. Which way do we go? And it seems I get that pre-apocalyptic comment that hit home. That was funny. Like, is something else coming? Like, is it going to get worse, or can it get? I don't know. Can it get worse?
Obviously, everything it can get worse.
Yeah, of course it can get worse. Yes, B-dubs could not be open. Oh my god! And then my life would shudder. But that's
waited an hour for my quesadilla.
Yeah, but these are stupid little microcosms of the problems that everyone's having. I mean, like we tried to get furniture for our house. Like we were on a waiting list for a couch for like 9 months, and they're like, yeah, we don't know when it's coming. I was like, well, screw that. We found a couch locally. Cancel that order, man. It was like nuts. And they're just like, well, can't get the parts, can't get the material, stuck in the port. No one will open it.
Well, and so here's something that also sort of irritates me about the talking points, because it's like, all right, people like you and me are like, we're kind of against the idea of the government just sort of throwing money at stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
And so, because in this case, like somebody, even as much as I like Andrew Yang, like as a person, I think his universal basic income is a ridiculous idea. And I kind of had the theory that it was a ridiculous idea when it was just a theory. But I think now the past year has shown that, like, yeah, it's a ridiculous idea, because so I think we can finally put that to bed. Right. So, but here's here's the problem. Those people
No,
say
you
like,
would
well,
think so.
you know,
Not to interrupt, but no, it'll never get put to bed. You throw free money at people, they're
Yeah,
gonna
right.
jump all over it. Sorry, go ahead.
well, that's the thing. This kind of thing, like the government just dumping money at stuff. The people the people that it purports to help are like lower class, low income people, but those are the people that it hurts, right? And it actually helps. To me, it exacerbates the wealth income gap because it's like the people who are most hurt by the lack of people. Because like, okay, you know, you got workers who work at a nice company and like everybody's making, you know, 60 grand, you know, office professionals who have degrees, you know, people who are good at their job, you know, like
Yeah, sure.
they're not quitting their job for $16 an hour unemployment, you know, like they're like, no, I want to go back to work and keep being on my purpose, doing whatever they're doing. As successful people. I don't live in that world, but like the people, so like, and those are the kind of people that like aren't affected by like, oh, they don't go to Wendy's, you know, so if the Wendy's is understaffed, they don't care. Right. And the staff that work at the nice restaurants, they're like, okay, well, they're already doing better to where like the $16 an hour unemployment can't compete. So they're still going to work. And so the people that it hurts the most are the like people who are like lower middle class. I mean, I'm firmly in the middle class, somewhere between lower middle class, whatever, however you define the income brackets. But it's like, you know, I went to Hilton Head Island this past weekend, which, you know, is not a place I would normally go as a person of my means. But I was playing a show there, so it kind of basically just use it as an excuse to make a weekend out of it, and it kind of broke even. And none of those places are understaffed. Like you go to the nice places, you know, where you're paying $40 for a ribeye, like those places have people to work. And,
That's a good point.
you know, like I don't see the "we're hiring everybody, please come work for us" signs that you see everywhere else in South Carolina. You don't see that on the island. And, you know, like the nice hotels have staff. There's attendants handing you towels at the pool. Like I didn't stay there, but like, so like it has the opposite effect of what the people I think who are they sold it on. We got to help regular Americans build back better and get back to work, but it actually hurts them the most, and it props up the people that they supposedly hate, which is the haves.
Right.
And that's an annoying thing because the people who are voting for the people who propose these policies, like they think they're doing the right thing morally, but they're actually hurting regular people.
Yeah. And then and then just like the designation of during the whole COVID stuff, and to a lesser degree now, the essential and non-essential workers. So you shut down non-essential things that you deem to be non-essential,
which is basically any small business not owned by a massive corporation.
Right. And you just knock those people completely out of the economy, like 100%. And then the only people left are the big players. The only people left, like on a retail thing, like you got Walmart, you got Kmart's gone, you got Walmart, Target, you get Amazon, you got people that can do deliveries like that. Not that the little companies couldn't compete before that. They have zero effing chance. Like fast food places could stay open in certain areas, but mom and pop restaurants had to shut down. It's just like, what? That's effed up, man. Or just because they had, and everyone's like, oh, you could do to-go dining. Well, yeah, sure. But freaking McDonald's.
Yeah, but who's going to do that? I mean,
McDonald's and Chick-fil-A are made for to-go dining. That's what they do.
Yeah, right. The in-restaurant experience of a Chick-fil-A is not built into the price. Like it's built into the price of a dive bar, like your local Cheers, where you go there and they got great wings. It's a cool thing. You know, I like the lights. You know, like all the experience of dining out is built into the price, which is why most people don't order like restaurant sit-down meal to go. Like, no. The reason this burger costs $14 is because somebody brings it to me.
Yes.
If nobody's bringing it to me, it should cost $9.
Yeah,
you know.
for sure.
But I mean, that's not a knock on them. I mean, they have to charge what they have to charge because they're running a business. I understand. Yeah. But I'm the kind of person who bought a bunch of to-go food. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Well, so did we. Like, we tried to support like the local shops that were doing to-go stuff that weren't like, you know, the bigger chains and all that jazz. But and you're right though about those restaurants because like nowadays, like now everything's back open. We've been to a few, you know, there's nice restaurants on the coast or down here in the water. So like those places are hopping. They're always hopping, and they're not hurting. And the service,
especially in the summer.
Yeah, food's awesome. Service is great. No complaints. But you're right. You go to like in the mid-level restaurants in town, or the lower stuff. It's just like, oh, bear with us. It's taking forever. We can't get anybody to come to work. It's crazy. It's nuts. But you're right though. Then it doesn't help the people that it purports to help.
Right.
A lot of times.
And
unintended consequences. Seen and unseen. It's called economics, man.
Right. And so, I'm not an expert on real estate, but and I would say I'm not even a novice on real estate. In fact, I don't really know anything at all about real estate, but I was listening to this dude, and I can't remember his name. I wish I could. He was on Tim Pool's show the other day, and he was talking about how, like, if one were to be conspiratorial about it, you'd be like, because what's happening is, like, all the real estate prices are going insane because there's, like, I don't know if there's like so much demand. I don't know if it's like a supply and demand thing, but like there's a real estate bubble right now where everything's like,
there is a real estate bubble. Yeah.
Like my house, if you looked on Zillow for my house, it'd be like way more than it would realistically or should be, or like was last year, or probably will be next year. So it's like, then there's a moratorium on rent, right? Yep. So you have all these people who are renting, and then what are they going to do? They're going to end the moratorium on rent. That's basically going to force people to move out. And then, like, the people who own the properties, people who own the properties are not collecting any rent, so they can't pay off their own property. And so here comes giant corporation BlackRock. Oh, we'll buy your property at pennies on the dollar. Yep, and then BlackRock. Now you have government subsidized housing everywhere, not just low income areas, but everywhere.
Yeah,
and it's basically now we're living in China.
Dude, it's a super big concern. I mean, I wouldn't begrudge a company that invests in real estate and then wants to rent it back or sell it back. But when you do this in this kind of market thing, and then you're getting money at like 0% from the feds and you're like a $50 billion company. So
you have the government. The government comes in and tells a person who owns property, you're not allowed to collect rent from your tenants.
Right.
And they're basically forcing that person not to have business. Now they still owe the bank money.
Yeah, because
right. And so now it's like, oh, I guess you better sell property. I guess you better sell to this corporation that we're bailing out and handing free money to.
Maybe you know a little bit more of this. I don't know this. Like, so like the landlords, are they being made whole at all? Like, is this part of the program of the rent moratoriums? Do they get a subsidy at all to like cover their stuff, or then are the banks then not able to call the note on them? I don't know how far down it trickles.
I really don't know either.
Should have looked this up before we start. Well, we didn't really plan on what we were talking about today, but
yeah. We don't do research.
Yeah, but like I'm sure there's at some point a stopgap somewhere where eventually it doesn't matter. It's going to end at some point, and it's not. You can't just not have commerce in that one particular area.
But the point is that these giant corporations who are sponsored by the government and sponsored in the sense that they're getting like super low interest money from the Fed.
They're
the ones who are going to swoop in as like, hey, well, we can pay all that back rent that your tenants couldn't pay. Yep. Yeah, so exactly. while you're evicting poor people, this giant corporation is going to come in here, and now you're going to have like more and more of a monopoly.
Well, yeah, and also you're going to purchase it at a lower rate because it's a depressed value and it's got something that's got money over it. Be like, well, listen, I'll bail you out, but I'm not paying full market price. And now the market price is jacked up like a freaking mother. So these guys are going to make freaking bank, and that's what they're doing. But
yeah, pretty much. Then they're going to get kickbacks from the government 5 years from now because there's going to be such a housing crisis. Well, we need affordable housing. And then lo and behold, here comes a corporation. Hey, guys, we can provide low-income housing. How about you give us a government subsidy?
Oh, yeah, all day long. Yeah. And then it'll come out, whatever senator and House representatives sponsored those bills, and there'll be an investigation, and one of those people get hauled up to Congress. They'll have a big show trial. Nothing will happen.
Yeah. Some executives will get nice fat bonuses before they're let go. Then
there'll be another like Dodd-Frank financial bill, and like the consumer gets screwed again, and everyone say, "Hey, we did something. Everything's fixed. Everything's good."
Right.
And all of a sudden, another crisis comes down the road that we didn't anticipate that we caused.
Well, that'll be a climate thing. So I think that they were probably had the COVID pandemic not happened, they probably would have been. I'm sure somebody's been working on trying to figure out a way to maneuver the climate crisis. I mean, you talk about the Green New Deal. I mean, that's kind of the same thing, you know, where you've got these massive regulations forcing everybody to adopt certain kinds of like new energy efficient things, which magically means everybody has to replace all of their infrastructure, right? Which of course none of these people can afford, but here comes the government sponsored subsidy. Well, we can afford it. So they were probably going to do that. That was like a long con. But then the pandemic happened and they're like, ooh, this is great. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to shut everything down and force everybody to suck off the government teat until, you know, the pandemic is over, and then everybody has to come crawling back to the government.
Yeah. Well, yes. I mean, and you said that sounds like conspiratorial. Maybe all that is conspiratorial. Maybe it's not.
Look, I realize that all of that sounds like I'm some dude in a van, like Dale Gribble.
No.
You know?
Yeah. It's like they said there's 24 hours in a day, or is there? But no. But conspiratorial stuff aside, the government will absolutely, like the federal government for sure, would absolutely love people to be relying on them. It's job security, man. I mean, think about it. It's as simple as it is. It's the people that are part of the government, the people that are in the agencies, people that are elected. It's job security. If there's no need for you to be there, you won't be there. It's like there's anti-poverty groups where people make like hundreds of thousands of dollars running them. Do they have incentives to end poverty? No, they don't.
Right.
So, right.
I mean, I think about that with my job. It's one of those things where it's like sometimes as a person who fixes computers for a living, and it's like, okay, well, if I do my job, nobody calls me because everybody's humming along. Now, ideally, like if I do it right, then like, you know, my clients, they do well and they expand and they need more stuff. So it's not a direct comparison, but there are certain times where I feel like I'm being punished for doing a good job because I have a built-in job, you know what I mean? And there's a temptation for like, I think amongst like unscrupulous people in my kind of profession where they're like, it's not the good solution, but it works for today. And then they'll call me again next week. Right. But in government, like nobody ever gets elected by saying, I want you to put me out of a job. Right. Like I want you to function in a way that you don't need me to fix your problems for you. Like nobody's going to get elected that way.
Yeah, so you can totally govern yourselves. Elect me. You govern yourself. That's fine. Yeah. That's what you. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's frustrating. Very frustrating.
Yeah. So it's all one big power. I mean, so this leads into like
it is a power grab, by the way.
The sliding scale.
Back to what I was saying though. Sorry, a power grab. A power grab is a good term. It's a good overarching just description of what's happening. And it doesn't matter what the motivation is. It doesn't matter if there's like 80,000 parties involved. It's those that want to, when they can grab power, they will, because that's what they do. And that's what people want. People in power don't want to give up power. And that's the whole point of the decentralizing a federal, like having a decentralized federal government that was like supposed to, you just have minimal impact on the union, right? So you don't want to give people power because people will abuse power. And that is not even a controversial statement. Of course, people get power and abuse it. You see it every day. You see it in your life. You see it in your family's life. You see it in your workplace. You see it in the government. You see it all throughout human history. It's not even a thing. Wow, man, this guy is back with these comments.
And block.
Cool. The British are, they are coming. Okay, fair enough.
All right. People watching can't see those. We're getting spam comments, but yeah, go ahead.
We are getting spam comments. Yeah, no, as I'm saying, I interrupted you, but like that's kind of what I was getting at. So it's not a grand conspiracy. It's a human nature thing where you just grant people the ability to self-aggrandize and make themselves important. They're not going to give that up, man. They're going to hold on to that like grim freaking death, and that's just human nature. Especially when there's money involved and influence and the notoriety and fame. It's awful. Those are all the worst things that a person can contend with or potentially can contend with. I mean, they're not necessarily bad in themselves, but they're bad. So, crazy, man.
Yeah. It feeds into the vanity of people, right? Like everybody thinks that like, oh, well, if you give me this power, I'll use it for good. Right.
Right.
You know, like that's the whole problem with Marxism. Like, if there's like so many historical examples of this, but it's like, oh, well, the problem here in Russia in 18th century is powerful people have all money and all power. So we need to give power to regular people. We give power to workers. And so what do? They do that. They have a revolution. And then what ends up happening? It's the exact same thing. All the powerful people all the people who are the most brutal are the ones who end up at the top. And then you have 20 million people die in the Ukraine of starvation because they seized all the crops. So it's like, we know what happens when people do that. That's part of the reason that like America, for all its faults, has survived, and not only survived, but it became a model for the rest of the world. Yeah. It was the first time to say like, no, we don't want centralized power. We got to spread it all out a little bit and let people do their own thing. And, with a few obvious caveats that were built, but that we've, been working on. But like, so like you get these people in the government who think like, oh, well, no. Control. You give us control, we're going to work towards this utopia. It's those other people. You give them too much control. Like, who really shouldn't have control is you, the individual.
Also, there's these overarching problems that you can't possibly solve. You need us to solve it for you. Like, without us, you would die. Like, literally.
Right.
There's foreign invaders. They were coming. They're coming over the hill. There's pandemics. There's the economy. How are you going to navigate the economy? You're just
The variants.
Yes, that's right. The Delta variant. No, you're like you can't purchase. Oh, God, who can afford medication? You can't do that. That's never in the history of the planet ever happened that people can afford their own medical care.
Yeah.
Did you know that, Dan? Never happened.
Now,
Nope.
setting aside that
Never
the
won.
reason the medical care is expensive is because they've got a
Exactly.
government-sponsored monopoly, but we don't want to talk about
No,
that.
no. That's not a thing. That's not a problem.
But excuse me, Mr. Government Person, what if we allowed free market principles to come to bear on the healthcare market, kind of like they did with automobiles and technology and televisions and basically everything else that's super cheap these days?
Yeah,
Like,
everything is
wouldn't that help?
cheaper
It's like,
and
yeah, but
better.
we can't allow that to happen because those people pay our campaign bills.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
we need to make sure they keep their monopolies.
Well, then it's good to scare the populace because when it comes to your health, man, if you are scared about that, you'll do almost anything. You would do anything to not
Think
die.
of the children.
Yeah, oh, God, think of your children.
The children
it's
with a
funny,
0.01% chance of catching the disease.
And it's funny. Dude, I saw a commercial the other day for like, gosh, what is it? It was a medical insurance thing, but only for helicopter rides in emergencies. I was like, that's a really specific niche that you would pay a monthly premium for. And they're like, in network care is free. I was like, well, what if I get screwed and I'm in like Boise, Idaho, and I have to get on a helicopter to like Sheboygan or something? I was like, is that in network? Do I have to figure this out? I was like, they're like, the average helicopter ride can cost you $37,000. I was like, that's it? That seems low to me, but whatever.
I'm just
But,
thinking
like,
of like some dude like in a Huey, like in South Vietnam, like getting carried over a rice paddy. Like, does this count? Am I out of the network?
It's out of network. I don't know, but that's just so funny because that's a stupid little insurance thing that you can purchase and you can have, and it's very cheap per month.
Don't get me
But, I
started
mean,
on insurance.
No, again, I wouldn't either. But like, and again, insurance is not a thing that's even remotely close to an open and fair market that people would ever insanely purchase. Like that's the whole problem. Like that's just part of the problem. But we're getting off. Well, no, we're on topic, but we're a little bit off topic. But
Yeah.
um,
Well, but they keep moving the goalpost,
yes,
right? So first it was 2 weeks to flatten the curve,
Oh,
which
yeah,
you know
okay.
we all knew was bogus when they said it. Or like 2 weeks, 2 weeks from when? Like, so of course now we're on like week 85 of 2 weeks to flatten
Oh.
the curve.
So yeah. Not to stay off that point, but like New York, they're doing mask mandates again, or is it vaccine mandates? It is vaccine mandates for in indoor dining and indoor gatherings. But it starts in September. You get till September 17th to kill as many people as you possibly can. So yeah, it's not quite 2 weeks. It's like 6 weeks. 6 weeks to flatten the curve in New York. But if we keep killing people, then we got to get serious. Crazy.
Yeah, I have there's a lot of conflicting feelings I have on the vaccine thing because it's like, on the one hand, I don't have a lot of sympathy for somebody who's like, I don't want to get the vaccine. That's crazy. And then they get sick. I'm like, what? Okay, what did you think was
Oh, yeah,
going to happen?
sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
But at the same time, it's like a lot of the same people who have been saying for decades, the government can't tell me what to do with my body. And it's like, what you need to do with your body is get a vaccine. It's like, does nobody see the hypocrisy here? Like,
Yep.
it's a free world. Like, you're free to make bad decisions.
Yeah.
It's dumb.
No, I like the idea of the vaccine passport or the vaccine, just a vaccine mandate, and then having to prove you're vaccinated, juxtaposed and put up to the idea that you have to prove who you are to like be able to vote. Like that's off limits.
Yeah,
you can't be like,
prove who you
"Hey,
are
man,
to vote, but you have to
Right.
prove your
You have
private
to prove you've had
medical
you've had a medical freaking procedure thrust upon you, possibly against your will, to do anything. Like, oh no, that's okay. That's okay. But if you have to ask just to show a picture ID of who you are to, preserve democracy or whatever the hell. It's all infuriating to me. It's just unbelievably dumb.
Right. Because it started out like, first we got to flatten the curve.
Yeah.
And then it
sorry,
was
back to
like,
that. Yep.
okay, well now because cases are spiking. Cases are spiking. And so it's like, all right, well, what's the percentage of those cases that translate into hospitalizations or death? No, it doesn't.
Yep.
Cases are spiking. And
They're
then like,
high.
okay,
We're there.
and-
Yep. Oh yeah.
well, right. And so like now people are the pandemic is for all intents and purposes on the downswing. Like all the government can do, it's done its job.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
look-
It's been on the downswing since January.
Well, right. We did a warp speed thing and they got the vaccine and setting aside issues of like, certain people who were like, I'm not getting no vaccine, come out of the wrong administration. And then the changing of the guard happened. And now it's like vaccines are great,
Right.
So it's like, okay, but we did that. So now anybody, any adult who wants to get it can get it. And if they don't, that's their choice. What are they supposed to do? Like, so like, we had to come up with a new crisis, right? In order to preserve the massive amounts of control. It makes me irritated.
Yes, it is irritating. Yeah, because like, or even now you get like news reports like every week, like in this area, COVID cases are up 1,700,000%. Like, wow, that's really scary.
Yeah, because you went from like 5 people to 20
Right.
people.
And then you go, all right, well, what's the death rate of it? Like, how many people are dying there? Like, there's a couple like articles. Someone's like, more people died in July in Washington D.C. from murders than they did from COVID.
Mhm.
Like, that's just a fact.
Yeah, like what they say, the 7-day rolling average.
it's
is
like 388.
It's like
I looked at it.
300 some people.
Yeah.
Which is less than like Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
It's like right there in the middle of the pack with all the different diseases.
Right.
Like every one of those is a tragedy.
Sure. 8,000 Americans die a day on average. Like,
Yeah.
just because we're a hugely populous nation.
A lot of people.
A lot of freaking
And so,
people.
but like
Yeah.
I got to take my kids to like these day camps and stuff that all these activities they're doing in the summer. They got to wear masks everywhere they go.
Ugh.
I'm like, that is ridiculous. You got a bunch of kids who are it's like statistically a given child has a more chance of dying in a car accident on the way to this place, on the way to get vaccinated or whatever, than they do from the disease.
Correct.
And it's like, well, they can still spread it. Like then the people who you're
aren't
worried about
vaccinated.
should get the stupid vaccine. Right.
Right. Yeah.
It's just mind-boggling. I don't understand how people don't see it as a power grab. Like it seems obvious to me. Like the same thing we were talking about like the other week, where it was like, you got like official government entities basically directing private businesses to silence these people and those people.
Right.
It's like, how do people not see that as a problem? But people are just like, I don't care. If it's people I don't like, it doesn't matter. And it's like,
Well,
how do
manufactured
people not
crisis,
see this?
dude. Again, it's at least I don't know how they don't see it as a power grab. It's a manufactured crisis. You have to get people scared. You have to have the other. You have to have a threat, and that way you ride in on your white little freaking savior pony, and you go, "I'm here to save you. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make it right. I'm gonna punish those who are harming you. I'm gonna do something that's gonna impede the threat coming your way. I'm going to make you safe. I'm gonna make you whole." And that's just
what a coincidence that the solution to this new crisis we have happens to be the exact thing that I've already been trying to do for several years, but couldn't convince people was a good idea. Oh, but wait a minute. The solution to this new problem happens to be the same solution I've always been talking about, which is give more power to me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Or my donors. They do a pretty good job too. The guys that give me money. Yeah, they're good. Political solutions they're bullshit. That's all it is. I mean, that's the gist of it. And it's funny because like everybody knows it when it's a political agreement or a political decision they disagree with. Then they can find.
It's like what a
potholes.
coincidence. The people who are the bad people in this scenario happen to be the people who vote differently from me.
Right. I can start connecting the dots on how they're compromised and how they have special interests and how they have conflict of interest and how they're full of shit and how they're freaking destroying my life. It happens every 4 fucking years, and it's so stupid. Like it literally is. You just again, you said changing the guards. I got it. It's the man meet the new boss, same as the old boss. It happens all the time. It's so crazy, and it's just this constant bipolar freaking American democracy thing that we do, and we all pretend we're doing something good. We're all making progress. Blah blah blah. I don't know. It's retarded.
Yeah, and our kids'
and
grandkids' taxes are going to be paying for all this.
Oh gosh, it's unbelievable. Like it sounds like the Chicken Little sky's falling. Like it's coming down, dude. Inflation's gonna be crazy. The economy's gonna crash. Like you literally can't spend as much money as the federal government spends and not have an economic crisis eventually. Like
They're
just passed
spending
an-
about twice as much as we spent on World War II.
Oh yeah, no, look, we they just did like an infrastructure bill for like $500 billion, and like I saw Mitt Romney up there to like, this is good for America, this is good for jobs, and it's fully paid for. I was like, you're a liar. It's not fully paid for. You are full of crap, dude, and you know you're full of crap. It's not fully paid for. Freaking, we're spending like $7 trillion a year, and like the federal government takes in like 2 or 3 max. No, they don't even take in 2 or 3. It's like, God, it's half of that, not even half of that. Our normal budget's like like the Obama budgets were like 3 or 4 trillion, and we're only taking in half of that. It's impossible. It is a statistical, it is a financial, it is a economic reality that you can't spend money and just forever. Like you can't do it, I can't do it.
Yeah,
businesses can't do it. Neither can governments. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
it's not.
It's like, imagine you were in a town and you ran a restaurant, and there was like a Chinese family that ran a restaurant. But the Chinese restaurant, I'm not saying this to be racist or anything, I'll get to the point. Like the Chinese restaurant doesn't pay their employees, and the Chinese restaurant just like they don't pay their employees, and they basically kind of they steal all of the resources they do to make all their food. Whereas you're over here being like, all right, guys, I know it's hard working at a restaurant. I'm gonna pay you guys all $25 an hour. We're all gonna get paid time off and all these kind of wonderful, great things. Well, what's gonna happen is you're gonna be broke, and the Chinese restaurant is gonna end up with all of the customers and all of the capital and all of the money because you were way too nice and they were way too mean. And so that's basically what's gonna happen with America. Because while we're over here, like basically putting ourselves in the hole, trying to appeal to, basically people keep trying to get elected by promising free stuff. Meanwhile, China's over there. They don't give a crap about the common man. And so you can't even own property. Like you basically get a sort of lease from the government. But like, so they're going to be fine. They're going to end up, the elite of the Chinese. Meanwhile, America's economy
Chinese people are going to be fine. Yeah. No, they're like the, the country worldwide, equivalent of like the robber barons.
Yeah.
Like just brutalizing their employees and having like company shops and all that stuff just to take advantage of their employees, but they're making trillions of dollars and they're putting their competition out to destroy them. And it is what it is, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But
I mean, I don't know how sustainable that all is either, but
I don't know. Maybe, that's a good question.
I mean, it's sustainable.
How successful will the Chinese economy be when they don't have a bunch of sucker Americans to buy all the stuff they make? So if inflation goes, I guess maybe it might, in the short term, it'd probably be better for them because like now goes up, people like you and me can be like, I kind of want to buy an American product, support an American business. That feels pretty good to me. But like, if the buying power of the dollar keeps going down, we'll have no choice but to buy cheap. Like nobody's going to buy a GoPro. They're going to buy the cheap Akaso EK7000 that costs $50 instead of $500.
Right.
I have a couple of those cameras, but I'm just saying like, because I'm a cheap person. So like, it'll be, I guess, good in the short term, but like, it's kind of like some sort of weird symbiosis where like nothing is made in America anymore. And China only exists to kind of profit off of our materialistic needs. How long is that going to last? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. It's like it only works as well as a dollar is actually a valuable thing to purchase stuff with.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually, if
switch over to Bitcoin.
Dude, well, no, that would be amazing. Don't tease me, Dan. No, but like a decentralized currency would be fantastic. That would alleviate a lot of problems.
You mean like gold?
Gold, Bitcoin, like any cryptocurrencies are great. I don't know enough about them to really.
I still don't understand how they work.
No, I don't necessarily know how they work, but a decentralized currency like gold, like anything that you can't control the just the source of, you can't inflate the amount of. Yeah, that's a positive thing. So like a dollar backed by the gold, by like the gold standard was a fine thing to keep the dollar pinned to a realistic actual value. Then once you throw that out, you can start just you print money and it's worthless eventually.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still not.
When I went to Poland in the late 90s, there was the currency there was the zloty. I think I may be pronouncing that wrong. But what's funny was that this was like 96 or 7, so it was like, maybe a few years post-communism. But the funny thing was that there was two kinds of zloty. There was like the old zloty and new zloty. and because the old currency had become so inflated, it had no value. So they started minting this new currency, which had the same name, but it was like a 1 to 1,000 ratio. So it'd be like everything the products that you would buy would have two prices. It would be like 3,003. And so it would be like, depending on which ones you had, you're like, is this okay? So I got 3,000. There was like a conversion rate. It was really confusing because it was like the same thing.
Sure.
But yeah, that's what happens.
Yep. Yeah. That is what happens.
And the people who are going to benefit are like the elites, right? So all the people that are trying to help are the ones who are going to get left in the dust. And so here comes, superhero government in to save the day.
Yeah. You mentioned power grabs. We were talking a little bit about vaccine mandates and stuff like that, and the unintentional consequences of that, or just that the little guy gets hurt and the little guy gets, they end up, they're the ones who are least helped by that policy. And I think it's so funny that huge corporations, again, will do this stuff. They'll, like, Walmart will do, I think they're starting to do vaccination mandates. Like, Google's done it. Like, I think Disney's doing it. Like, a bunch of these big companies that do that stuff. They have the clout to do that because they can get 1,000
mandates for the employees or the customers.
Yeah, no, for the employees. Excuse me, for their employees. So the employees have to be mandated to come to work, and I know that's not indicative only of large companies. Smaller companies can do that, and they would, and they have, and that's up to them too. However, it's just funny to me that gets cheered on. As an employer
by the same people who thought it was wrong for Hobby Lobby to not provide contraception. Right.
Yeah. And then they're like, "Oh, you're brutalizing your employees by not offering something."
Right. But if you say, "Hey, this company shouldn't require vaccinations," what do they say? They'll say, "Go work for another company."
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So
it's completely ridiculous. Yeah. No, it's a political issue. That's what's nuts. So I just find that enraging because, like, I'm an employer, right? So I don't make my employees do a lot of things. But I could never in good conscience be like, you have to freaking take this medicine to work here. Like, I couldn't do it. I'm not morally I don't have the moral justification to do that. I'm not able to, like, in my mind, in my heart, and I think in reality, it's immoral for me to do that. Now, it's not even that, like, because even in, like, a spot where if it was like a huge disease thing, like, we're all going to die if you came to work, I'd be like, well, it's too dangerous to work. Like, then we need to hold up shop for a little while and, like, not work. Like, if all my employees coming that aren't vaccinated are such a threat to my company, I need to shut that bitch down. We need to take some time off. Like, I shouldn't have been open this whole time. However, I'm deemed essential, so I was able to work. But you know what I'm saying? Just like in principle, like that's how it is, man. But like that, and that's a power differential. That's a power grab. Like that's the classic, like, liberal small L, like, argument against hierarchies. You're like, you want to work here? No, you do what I say, and I say you get this medicine. I don't care if you don't want this medicine. This is what I want you to do. This is what you have to do, or you get the hell out of here, man. And, like, there's so many laws on the books that you can't do certain things like that in other areas. Like, I couldn't be like, you want to work here? You have to be a Christian. Now, get the hell out of here, dude. You're Catholic. You're a Muslim.
You have to have a license to fish this lake.
Yeah, that's right. It doesn't matter what stupid arbitrary thing. Like I don't know. And it's funny because it's like immutable characteristics. It's like I have like maybe having a disease. Is this something I did? No, it's an immutable characteristic. You can't mandate against that. But we're allowing it and we're encouraging it, and people cheer it on. It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy to me. Yeah. That's all.
And there's another level of the obvious transparency. Well, it's not obvious transparency because a lot of people are still buying it, but like the obvious phoniness of it, because it's like
obvious to you and me, Dan. Obvious to the.
Well, it's like, say, like, take a look at, like, the disparity between, like, the messaging about, like, comorbidities. So what they'll do is they'll fudge the numbers and they'll be like, 1% of people. Out of 100 people, 1% got, they'll say 1% of people got the disease, right? And they died from it. Say that happened, even though it's not a right number. But, like, so the regular person will hear that and go, all right, well, I guess I have a 1% chance of dying. Like, no. But
no, you don't. Yeah.
No, it doesn't mean that you have a 1% chance. That means that of this group of people, 100 people, one person got it. But then if you look into that person, turns out they were 400 pounds, or maybe they were asthmatic, or they were, maybe they were like
whatever.
diabetic, or something. There could be any number of reasons that may have been of their doing, but may not have been of their doing, because life is tragic like that. But it's like, that's not how numbers work. So if you eliminate for the variables, all the number goes, whoo, right? Because you didn't see Anthony Fauci being like, you got to get enough vitamin D, maybe get some exercise, eat right, try to get your health under control. Then you'll probably be in a much better shape if you do get the disease. He wasn't saying any of that. He was just saying, like, mask, don't mask, wear a mask, wear 2 masks. And it's like, because they don't want people to make good decisions for themselves. They just stay inside, like where you get no sunlight, which is like one of the best things for you.
Right.
That's how you know it's phony.
Well, of course, or forget that. This is so stupid that our culture, and we talk about it because we like this podcast and we do our podcast. Like Joe Rogan said that on a podcast. He actually had freaking Anthony Fauci calling out Joe Rogan.
Don't get me started on that.
Just like, hey man, maybe be healthy. And if you're young, just think about it. Maybe you don't want to take the vaccine. I don't know. It's up to you. But like, if you're healthy and you're doing all these things and you're getting your vitamin D and you're taking your vitamins, you're exercising, you're underweight, maybe why I don't think I would, is what he said. And just like, give it some thought.
And then you get that's the people on the news being like, we need to talk about the misinformation on YouTube. He's too big. He has too many listeners. We need to do something about Joe Rogan. And it's like,
exactly. Well, there you go. That's another power grab. Again,
they're just pissed off that he has more viewers than they do.
Yeah, man. Dude, random Joe Blows, who have been just building an internet audience for the last 6 years, beat the shit out of CNN all day long. Even Fox News, or the top rated Fox News show only gets a couple million people in their key demographic.
Yeah. Oh, so that's a good one. So like Gavin Newsom goes out recently and he's like, well, because people were asking him like, well, why is it that California has such a low vaccination rate relative to the fact that it wasn't really, I don't think it's that low, but it's like relative to what you would expect given the fact that California is so predominantly like left wing. You would expect that they'd be all like, vaccine, sure, let's do it, right?
Oh, let me guess. Is it Tucker Carlson's fault?
Well, I don't think he name dropped Tucker Carlson specifically, but the people who talk about it, they use him as an example. And it's like, all right. Well, let's look at the numbers here. The number of people who are not vaccinated greatly outweighs the number of people who view Tucker Carlson's show. Exactly. And so somebody, I forget who it was, went through and did some table napkin math, figuring out the percentage of people in some of these major cities who are unvaccinated, and you extrapolate the numbers and then compare that to the number of people in that city that voted Republican. And so it's way more. So there's this narrative that it's a bunch of right wingers who are saying don't get vaccinated. It's this anti-vax narrative. No. There's way more people than just crazy right wingers who are not getting the vaccine. So somebody somewhere screwed up with the messaging. I have an idea. Maybe it's the fact that the people who are delivering the message have been crying wolf, and they're not even just crying wolf. They're crying jaguar, tiger, and lion. Oh yeah, for a year. And it's there's no institutional trust in the information channels.
Of course not. Yep.
Then you're all butthurt that people don't believe you.
Some of the highest anti-vaccination rates are among the black population and the Latino population. Not a reliable Republican demographic. Not the voting bloc. Yeah. Not the MAGA folks. They're just not MAGA folks. And it just is what it is, man. So, yeah, it's very frustrating.
Yeah. Whew. And this is one of the things where I'm not just trying to get mad at people on that side of the aisle. I get very angry at Trump and the Trumpers. Not everybody who voted for him, because that's a huge, whatever. But it frustrates me that it was kind of inevitable that with the pressure building during the Obama administration about the growing divide between the two halves of the country and the demonization of one group, it was inevitable psychologically that some sort of figure, whether it was Trump or whether it was somebody else, would sort of arise out of that as a sort of a populist figure that a lot of people would get behind, and whatever it was that made him appealing to the people behind him would make him inherently abhorrent to everybody else. So that was sort of inevitable. It was probably going to happen. But what annoys me about him is that now nobody can have smart discussions about anything, because similar to January 1/6, J6. if you say anything that's against the party line, people will say, "Oh, okay, so you thought Trump did a good job then? Great." Okay, so
Yeah, sure.
you wish that, like, if you say something like, "Well, President Biden clearly has got some problems here, both mentally and in terms of policy. He seems to like not care about the inflation issue, and there's all these other things." Like, oh, okay, so you think you want Trump in charge? Okay, I got it, right? Because like that's the ultimate Trump card, right? It's it's a hilarious pun of irony,
Yeah.
It's like. It annoys me to no end that he basically ruined the potential for discourse amongst adults, even educated people. Because if you say anything against the party line, against the established dogma, they assume that you're going to be advocating for some sort of like, I don't like the guy.
Sure. Well, I don't know, man. I think that's always there, though. I see what you're saying. I get the frustration. You're not wrong in your assessment that happens. I don't know if it's Donald Trump's fault. I think that's just I think it's just a logical conclusion of where we've been going.
I mean, imagine how much easier it would be if he wasn't a dick.
Nah, it wouldn't matter.
He probably wouldn't have been elected if he wasn't a dick.
Listen, George W. Bush was Hitler, like literally Hitler.
I remember.
He was called Hitler, and now he's like lauded as like one of the reasonable right presidents by the same people that were calling him baby murderers and Hitler, which they weren't wrong, by the way. But now it's same
thing with Bill Clinton.
He's very nice.
If Bill Clinton was around, if 90s Bill Clinton was around today, he could win the presidency as a Republican.
Of course. Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Not
like
even a question.
He was like, I think
Isn't that crazy?
There's some positive American values here, you guys. I would just like to announce my membership of the Republican Party. And then
sometimes I like to, this is my Bill Clinton. It just turned into a Fauci for some reason. I don't have
from New York and Bill Clinton's from Arkansas.
I don't have a Bill Clinton. Here's my Bill Clinton. I'm Donald Trump, and I'm also having sex with people on the side, and it's crazy. And like all of a sudden, it's okay. See, that's what's funny because like Donald Trump is like
just jealous,
a philandering, disgusting, sexual, ugly, not a predator, but whatever. Just uses power to have sex with people. And like when Bill Clinton does that, God forbid, that's the worst thing ever because he did it as president. Donald Trump does it for like 700 years before this presidency, and everyone's like, Jesus loves him.
Yeah,
really.
I'm going to use my position as pastor of this mega church to endorse this horrible philanderer.
Yeah, awful. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously he's a bad person. Like that's not even a question. That's not even a freaking question. But I'm sorry. I've said this a lot of times. I don't think I've ever said this on the show. If you are trying to be the leader of the free world, which sounds that's a nice way to say it. You want to be the most powerful human being on the freaking planet. You're a bad person. Sorry, you're not a good person. Nobody wants that. If you want that power,
arguable that George W. Bush probably didn't even want it that much.
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah, again, he might have been thrust upon that. He's that's just me being mean. But like, if you seek that power out, you're not trustworthy of that power. Sorry, man. Nope. I don't buy it. You're not a good person. You can't be. I sincerely believe that, and I'm okay with saying that. Probably up from like what? Probably the 40s on. Because like the first U.S. presidents had no power. They were just goobers.
Yeah. So. Well, that also means there were some crazy ones that slipped in there, like Andrew Jackson and some of these people that like
Man, the South did not rise again. They really didn't. I'm not advocating that they should. I'm just saying they didn't.
Yeah.
No, I don't know, man. It's just it's a bonkers time to be alive. I don't know where we're going. It's like every week is just something so stupid and crazy, and I can't get my mind around it. Other than there's going, I disagree. I don't like that. Nope, don't like that. Nope, I don't like that. Nope, I don't like. But then again, that's just my point of view, I guess.
If I had to guess, maybe if we get to a point where like people really start voting with their feet and being like I think this whole scenario has shown people like why like your local elections and like your governors like. Why that stuff matters.
Well, that's happened a lot for sure. State to state flight has been huge.
People are like, oh, well, I'm going to move to Florida or Texas or one of these places that doesn't do this kind of stuff. And so it's like, I've said for years, like, why don't we just experiment? Like, we could say, like, all right, look, California is going to be California. So, like, now, granted, I know that not everybody has the privilege or the ability to just pick up and move, right? I certainly don't. But like. In theory, like the idea is like, well, let's let that state do what they want to do, and then let's let this state over here do what they want to do, and we'll see which one works out better, which one has happier people, which one has a better economy, like that kind of stuff. But it's like there's, what we were talking about last week, where there's like this conservative liberal mindset, where like these conservative people are like, no, it's not just that I have to have this way for me, but like I have to make sure that other people live the same way.
Right.
So it's not just that California is content to just be California and do their thing. They want Arkansas and Mississippi and South Carolina to be the same way, And that's not saying that Arkansas and Mississippi, that they're necessarily any better, but it's just like that's the personality type. I venture that if you just let people figure, we would start to see pretty clearly like what are good ideas and what are bad ideas if you let them filter out.
Yeah, I wholeheartily agree with that. And like,
this is my diet anarchism.
Yeah, anarchy light. Let me go anarchy full for you. I am full fat anarchy in more ways than one. But like, no, like that's absolutely true. So like, it's funny because like the roles have flipped, because like in the 80s and the 90s, the conservatives had some social power, like like, and even like not even necessarily conservatives, like conservative politicians. Like think about like the like parental advisory stuff on music.
Yeah,
that was a Democrat push, man. Like Al Gore did that. Yeah. Tipper Gore, whatever. But like that was the thing that like, and if you think about that now, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. Or like just the fight for like the marriage amendments and all that stuff from the federal government. The federal government has no business in mandating anything about marriage to any state, any locality, anything. But like for the longest time, that was just this like Republican thing. Actually, it wasn't a Republican thing. Like Barack Obama, up to the point where he got nominated and elected president, was like, no, I'm staunchly against gay marriage. He changed his
tune about, was it 2011, 2012, right before the election?
Right. Yeah. So conveniently, right. So like, same with Hillary Clinton. Like they were just like, no, there's no federal involvement in marriage. Nope. I'm against gay marriage on that level. Nope, not doing that. And then when it's politically fine, they do that. So it's just, again, it's just like one of those things that, nobody can just live and let live for some reason. And the power sources flip, and it goes from conservative to liberal conservative. And that's just what's happened in the last 40 years. It's just been this continual stupid cycle. And yeah, man, if every state could just do their own little thing, within the states, it would be wise for them to let their counties do it. Within the counties, it'd be wise for them to let their cities and towns do it. And in the towns, let the people do what they want, man. If you're not harming anybody, you gotta let people live their lives, man.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, generally how I feel about everything. So
yeah, something I've noticed, like in observing like social media arguments and stuff like that, is that like it's like all these like social issues, whether it's like policy or just whatever, like there's a math element and then there's a moral element. So the problem is not everybody is equally gifted in both areas. Some people are like really good with like numbers and economics and stuff. And some people don't really get into that stuff. They're more about the philosophy. And sort of the morality of these kind of things. Well, the problem is that like everything that you do, especially as a government, needs to kind of pass both tests. So the problem is you might have something that's like, okay, say you had something that makes math sense. Like, well, okay, so like, the of course, but maybe thing, the Louis C.K. bit. Are you familiar with that?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I know.
Where he's like, of course, people with peanut allergies, we should protect them and keep them separated from everybody and make sure that businesses understand and that they have supplies of medication. But maybe if you're allergic to peanuts, you're supposed to die. And maybe if we just ignored the problem, it would go away in 20 years. So like, that's funny because it's like, that's an example of like looking at something from like a math level and ignoring the moral component. So the problem is like, you say something like, well, if like from Scrooge or Christmas Carol, Charles Dickens is like, all right, the people come asking for money for the poor. It's like some people would rather die than go to debtor's prison. He's like, well, maybe they should die and decrease the surplus population, right? Exactly. So that's looking at a math level and ignoring the moral question. Well, the problem is that like, you can go the other extreme too. You can make things on some sort of a moral, like, isn't it right that, or you can say like, it's wrong that like these people have more, so what we need to do is even, so like you can make all these moral judgments, but if the math doesn't work out, where does the money come? I mean, the government can't do anything without either force or money, right? And when it runs out of money, it uses force, right? So it's like at some point
Well,
you have to pay the piper.
Other way around. Sorry.
Do what now?
No, they can't do anything without force. When they run out of force, they just print money.
Oh,
Because
well,
the money,
right.
there's no government money. It's all taken by force. Sorry, just
That's true.
point
Right.
of privilege. Point of privilege.
No,
That's all.
but you're right though. So it's like you can't escape the math, even though it doesn't feel as fun to talk. Like it's easy to get on a high horse and be like, the government has a responsibility to other people to do these things. It's like, okay, you're welcome to say that all day long, and I might even agree with you. But if we don't have the cash to do it, we don't have the cash to do it. And so when you run out of the cash to do this thing, how do you get more cash? Well, now you have to take it from other people, and now you're into another moral discussion.
Well, yeah.
So-
That's exactly where I was going to go with this whole thing. I was going to wait for you to
Yeah.
stop and then go for that. But like, right.
go
So
ahead.
if it doesn't pass the moral decision, you don't do it. Sorry, you don't. You don't have the right to do it. If it doesn't pass the moral test, it's over.
Well, the problem is that morality, there's not going to be a consensus because a lot of people have different versions of morality, but there's
Yeah, I
no
don't
two
care.
versions of math.
Well, yeah, there is. There is now, buddy. Yeah, there is.
Well, you know what I mean.
Because no, listen, and because we've allowed 8,000 versions of morality, 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4 anymore, Dan. Like, I'm sorry, dude. It's gone from subjective morality to subjective fucking math, and like that's a thing. That's the thing.
Yeah.
A man's not a man, a woman's not a woman. There's 8,000 genders. 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4, and there is subjective morality. There is no objective morality, which is, of course, in its own discussion, objective moral claim, which is absurd. So, like, once you allow once you deny objectivity in one area, it's gone in all, and it just takes a while for it to filter through. And now we're getting to the logical consequence of absurdity morality.
Which is
I don't know which came
total
first,
chaos.
but total chaos. Yeah, complete anarchy in like the negative way, like not the positive way that I would go with. But like,
What's interesting is that a
But-
lot of
yeah,
the
yeah, but-
people who will argue that there is no objective morality seem very averse to the idea of each person making their own decisions.
oh yeah, of course,
Which is weird
yeah,
because you know what I mean. Like you would think that, like, okay, say you're kind of a anarchist, atheist kind of background, and you're like, well, whatever. There's no who's to say there's a moral fabric to the universe or whatever, right? And we could do a whole nother show on that, but it's like, okay,
Oh, we should. That'd be fun. I
So
could
it's
rip
like-
on that for like 3 hours.
so it's like, okay, well, if there isn't an objective moral fabric to the universe, then why are you so allergic to the idea of just letting random people make their own decisions for themselves?
Correct.
Like,
Like, why are you arguing at all? The presence of an argument is the evidence of an objective standard. Sorry, it just is. Like, because if you're going, if you say there's no objective morality, or no, if I say there's no objective morality, sorry, no, I say there is. Okay, this is how she's got. I'm sorry, I do bad about role play. I go, Dan, there's objective morality. You go, I disagree, and then you just go. That's fine. That's being consistent. You go, I disagree, and then you leave. As soon
Right.
as you open your mouth to argue, you're trying to prove a point, and you're trying to change my mind, and you're trying to convince me of your truth. Your truth. You're trying to
Yeah.
convince me of truth. There is no your truth. There's truth. You're trying to convince me of truth. So as soon as you open your mouth in defense of your position, if your position is subjective, you're wrong. Then shut the hell up. Get out of there. Don't even say anything.
I don't know if I totally agree with that, but I get the spirit of what you're saying.
Yeah, no, you're wrong. I'm right.
I think sometimes subjectivity can be the point, but that's maybe a whole other can of
Sure.
worms.
Yes. No. Subjectivity can be the point in a given space. But if the discussion is there objective, is there subjective, or is it mutually exclusive, or is there only one and the other? So there is both. There's objective and there's subjective. Like my favorite ice cream flavor is subjective. It's completely subjective. There is no objective truth. The existence of ice cream is objective. Like you can't say ice cream doesn't exist. Like you're an idiot. And if you go, wait a minute, let me explain to you why ice cream doesn't exist. Like stop talking. You just gave up objective. Like if you're saying there is no objective standards, no objective truth, if you argue,
Yeah.
your actions belay, they disregard your statements. So either way, fun. It's just fun. Sorry.
Yeah. No,
It's a circular logical thing. It's just and it happens all the time, and I'm probably guilty of it in a million different ways. But like when I see it, it's painstakingly obvious to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to tie this all back into what we were talking about is like,
Yeah, we got a little bit off topic.
the presence of like wokeism and all this kind of stuff as the new religion.
Yeah.
Right. So, I think we talked about this before, but like,
oh yeah,
I
mean,
growing up where we grew up, people talk about Nietzsche like he was this, horrible person. And I'm not necessarily an expert on any of that stuff, but like, it strikes me like when he famously said like, God is dead. We killed him basically.
Right.
And people are like, oh, that's horrible. But like he kind of basically predicted the 20th century because he was talking psychologically. You kill the idea of God, and then what fills that power vacuum? Like it's like a deposed government in a random country. And so, because there is a certain percentage of the population that thinks for themselves and likes to come up with like, all right, well, I kind of think this, or they're kind of skeptics about stuff and they're kind of figuring this out. Most people aren't that way. Most people would much rather just be told, okay, look, here's the right way and here's what you do, and just go and do your portions. Right. And so that's part of, even like your evolutionary psychologist would argue, like that's part of the reason why religion continues to exist, even after the invention of science and modern technology, because there are certain things that science can't explain, but also because like we have an innate psychological need for purpose. And it's stressful to think of the idea of having to conjure up all of your own purpose. Not everybody's built to do that. So if you take away, Judeo-Christian or Eastern or whatever, pick whichever religious group of your choice, you take away those things because they're oppressive or they're patriarchal or whatever criticism you have. Something's going to replace them, and it's going to be inevitably something that gives a lot of people who don't want to think for themselves, it gives those people purpose. Yep. And it probably has a villain, and it probably includes some sort of narrative that tells you who the bad guys are. And that's exactly what we have now.
And also usually has some version of like original sin.
Right.
And
right.
the ideal standard that you can't meet, but you have to always strive to. And
there's a lot of talking points that you kind of have to just sort of say.
And there's almost always a savior. There's a way out, but you maybe can't meet that, which is
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
Oh,
Captain, my captain. Yeah, no, that's such a so like by way of just my personal history, looking through anarchist stuff, tons of like atheist dudes, like you said. Actually, there's a lot of Christian anarchists too, which are really interesting, and I like those guys. But like a lot of them, very hostile to Christianity throughout a lot of their, or just religion in general, but also Christianity, just because most of them are Western dudes. So that's just how it comes up. But then later, or I've noticed more lately, just like, like there's like you said, it's like a power vacuum, like that. You take away people's overarching purpose, meaning, overarching, just reason, like their reason, their logos, their purpose, their all the same terms. And then like you if that's gone, your life is very hard to navigate, and it can be, you have someone can come in and swoop in and give you all sorts of crazy stuff that'll fill that gap. Maybe good, maybe bad, and like, but it's super. it's very stereotypical. It's very cliche to call like wokeism a religion, but man, it lines up pretty close. Like you overlay, it checks a lot of the boxes, man. It really does. And like wokeism, even that term is fucking stupid. Like, but we're using it as short term, like shorthand. I don't know. You know what I mean? But but when we say it's just it's not fair to use that term. It's not a good term. But it wasn't our term. Like they used the term first. But it's super interesting discussion on what, again, so kind of what it is to be human and the fulfillment of purpose. Like Nietzsche, whatever. Not I don't agree with a lot of his stuff, but a lot of his stuff is great. He's a good philosopher. He's a great thinker.
He's kind of a nihilist, but
oh
he's
yeah, for
kinda
sure.
like, kind of like Freud in the sense that they were both
without
very
the
good
without the child diddling,
Well,
the pedophilia.
but they were both very good observers of natural human state.
Yes,
Right, and unfortunately, that makes them a bit of a cynic.
Yeah. And then,
But if you correctly presume perceive how people operate, you're going to be a little bit cynical.
yeah, but Homeboy, like, he really did predict like the freaking world wars. Like, what happened is what happened, and it's just like God's dead. We're the ones that killed him. Like, and then just like that's the other half of it. Like, God is dead. We killed him. And like then there's like this crazy person like meandering through the street. Everyone's ignoring him. And then it's just like it's that whole thing's like a short story kind of thing.
Yeah. We could do a whole nother show on like. I wish I've been trying to find the video where it was Jordan Peterson was talking about like part of his objections to like wokeism and like the talks of like different kinds of privilege and stuff like that is that like. He describes like hierarchies in nature, like where like, and people, he'll describe something and he'll say like, well, there's a natural hierarchy to like, the men who are this way tend to be more attractive and the women who are this way tend to be more attractive. And then those things are, it's sort of natural selection using nature as sort of a model for, we dress up humanity with a lot of extra adverbs and descriptions, but we're still kind of following a lot of the same principles. And so people presume that is a defense of the hierarchy. Like he's defended, like, no, you describe the patriarchy and people think, oh, so you're defending it. It's like, no, it's not a defense or an endorsement of something one way or the other to describe it that way.
It's an observation.
It's an observation. So if you extrapolate like what modern society has done, like where capitalism and, with its pros and cons and like the Enlightenment and the Renaissance and all the science and all this kind of stuff, it's like the problem is the people who try to eliminate hierarchies at all. They say like, well, the problem is that some people have a lot and some people have nothing. It's like, well, I don't think you're going to be able to get rid of that. The problem is that's like fighting fighting gravity. You can't fight that because people aren't the same, right? There's always going to be people who are better at stuff. There's going to be people who lucked out. They got born into a better family. Some people are more attractive. Some people are more smart. Some people have high moral character. Some people have low moral character. I mean, it's just people are different. The solution is not to just dismantle the idea of hierarchies in general. The solution is to create more hierarchies. So, he had this idea where it's like, what makes modern society, a free society, grow is that you were no longer bound to the like one hierarchy. So like if you lived in Sparta in 400 BC, there was one hierarchy: who's strong, who's tough. Everybody else can go eat a dick. And so like, and it made Sparta very good at exactly one thing, right? Or if you were like, say, I met somebody one time who was from like a fishing village in northern Scotland. Everybody there was a fisherman. That's what they do. If you weren't good at fishing, you're out of luck. And so like as humanity evolves, we move away from just having singular hierarchies based on strength or power or whatever to a free society where this could be the silver lining of the information age.
Yep.
Where like there's all these different kinds of hierarchies. So the chance of you finding a hierarchy where you will naturally fit better and have a better chance to succeed goes up.
Exactly.
So like I'm good at a few things, and if I was born in a different time in a different country, the things that I'm good at would be meaningless, right? And so I'm lucky that I was able to find a couple, because it's such a big world out there, And so the people who want to dismantle the idea of hierarchies, the people being on top, like there's no way to do that. What they should be doing is they should be encouraging more freedom and more autonomy. Yeah. Because that means the likelihood of different hierarchies existing in society where people can find their true environment to thrive goes up. Yeah. Which is an argument for personal freedom and people having their own autonomy and stuff.
Yeah, that's so funny because right. Oh, damn it, I did it again. That's so funny. I hate that. I gotta stop that too.
Is it really funny?
No, it's nah. like and 6 million people died. That's so funny. Let me get on that. No, but like That's very true.
What's
So
the deal with Heinrich Himmler?
No, but like hierarchies on themselves it's a natural state, and it's not necessarily a negative thing. It's very even in like certain relationships, everyone's like, oh, okay, like the traditional male and female hierarchy thing is negative. I was like, are you freaking kidding me? I was like, like in the 20th century was like a complete role reversal of hierarchies. So like if it's like even in the 50s, people were like, well, the men was just like this patriarchal society, and women were like at home, like doing dishes, like raising the kids. Like, okay, they were doing that. Like men were also like in coal mines, like going to war in a freaking meat grinder, getting destroyed. And then like instead
working
of
at Chernobyl, getting lethal radiation poisoning.
No, and then instead of coming up with noble causes, like maybe not murdering 700 million people across the planet, again, whatever, just joking, but like, you know, World War I, World War II, what did we do? We made washing machines and like electricity, and we didn't make electricity. We harness electricity, we make washing machines, you make all these home devices that make life easier in the home. At that time makes life easier for women, while men are being brutalized and destroyed. Like, fuck that patriarchy idea, that's stupid. Like there are hierarchies.
Everybody has a different cross to bear.
No, but in that family, there may be a hierarchy. In society, you may even see a hierarchy like, oh, the business leaders are men. So what? Like, society bowed down and catered to the females, to the mothers of the planet or of our country, and made their lives easier. Like, it's not black and white. And I'm not saying there's no patriarchy, and I'm not saying there's no patriarchy, and I'm not saying it's not bad in some ways, but it's not.
Well, and you give any group of people the majority of the power, and there's going to be a percentage of those people that abuse it because they're human beings.
Right. Well, but it gets to your point, or like Jordan Peterson's point, like there are different. It's an ever changing group dynamic, and then like you can slot it in here. You can be higher, you can be lower. I'm lower in some spots, I'm higher in some spots. Like, where I work, I'm at the top. Where I go to my church and other groups, I'm in the middle. Some of my friend groups, I'm down on the bottom. Some of the other organizations I'm part with, I have no business doing anything, and I'm like way low. Like, but like none of those things matter. They all matter in their own way. But I'm not oppressed, and I'm not an oppressor. It's just how it goes in those specific situations and circumstances and relationships, and that's But like you said, as you expand, as you grow into other relationships, and as your sphere of influence has the opportunity to grow, which is what freedom is. You have the opportunity to grow. You have the opportunity to do more. You can slot in and find more purpose and meaning and more greater human value in those moments, and that's a beautiful thing. I don't know. Sorry, ranting there. Real quick, I want to throw this up here. This guy's commented a few times. I want to throw it up there. Dan, there are no whole truths. All truths are half truths. It's trying to treat them as whole truths that play the devil. Someone named Whitehead. I'm going to respond by saying, is it true that all truths are half truths?
Ha! Got him.
Sucka. Game over.
The only true version of knowing is knowing that we know nothing.
Only Siths deal in absolute, Stan.
Dust.
Only the Siths.
Wind.
Dude. We should do a Bill and Ted retrospective and talk about.
I haven't seen the third one. Did you watch the third one?
I love the third one. Yes, I like it.
I never got around to it.
I mean, like, they did a really good job at being a Bill and Ted movie. And it was funny, and it was lighthearted. It wasn't campy. Like, it was campy. It was campy like it was supposed to be campy. But it wasn't like they just shoehorned in a freaking third movie to make $1 billion. Because they were never going to do that anyway. They did. I thought it was great. I liked it. I would recommend it. You should watch it.
I should watch that with Levi tomorrow.
Yeah. Hey, man, we're at 100. We're at an hour, 123 minutes. That's not true. We're at an hour and 24 minutes because I can't read time. But
this is our longest one.
Long episode. We weren't even. I don't even remember. I remember what we talked about, but we just ranted and raving. So.
Ranting about the government.
There was a lot of that. That was a good one to get off the chest. Like, I don't want every show to me. I can rant about the government like this every show if you want.
Well, so could I. I've just been bothering me the last few days.
Yeah. We didn't even go anywhere I thought we were going to go. That was fun. How we got into like freaking nihilism and Nietzsche and like whatever
Yeah.
anarchism and stuff like that. That's funny. And truth.
It's a thrill a minute.
It is, whatever. Something like that.
All right. We'll be back next week.
Yes, with talks about cupcakes and dinosaurs.
Don't get me started on the cupcake lobby.
Dude, Big Cupcake are by far the most evil sons of bitch. Cupcakes.
That's funny.